Donald Trump's political brand relies on projecting an aura of absolute control. For years, his public appearances have been carefully staged to reinforce this specific image of an unshakable, dominant leader. But outside of those strictly controlled environments, a different picture is emerging. Footage of him descending the staircase of Air Force One shows a man moving with extreme caution, tightly gripping the handrail and carefully placing each foot as if navigating a minefield. This is not an isolated incident. Cameras have repeatedly captured him awkwardly contorting his body to lower himself into a chair. Close-up photos reveal noticeably discolored hands and severely swollen ankles. This diagram shows the biomechanics of bilateral drop foot, a condition where a person struggles to lift the front part of their foot. Medical observers point out that instead of stepping normally, he is increasingly swinging his leg outward in a semicircle. That specific motion is strongly associated with patients compensating for a hidden leg brace. At 79 years old, physical fatigue is expected, but the outward swing of a leg and the heavy reliance on handrails suggest a specific underlying medical pathology, now visible in every public appearance. This chart tracks public confidence in the president's health over time. The trend lines are striking. 59% of Americans now actively doubt he has the mental acuity for the office, and 55% believe he lacks the necessary physical fitness. The White House has tried to manage this growing alarm by attributing his symptoms to chronic venous insufficiency, a condition that causes poor blood flow and swelling in the legs. Yet official explanations ring hollow when paired with abrupt behavioral shifts. Recently, he abandoned a game at his own golf club for an unscheduled off-site dental appointment, a highly unusual move for a president who typically utilizes the fully equipped, on-site White House medical clinic. There is a distinct irony at play. He built a substantial part of his previous campaign around mocking the physical trips and stumbles of his political opponents. Now, the cameras are capturing his every move. The widening gap between the confident spin coming from his press team and the unfiltered physical reality caught on tape forces a serious question. If the president is declining this rapidly, who is actually managing the crisis behind closed doors? The physical signs are troubling, but the cognitive indicators are causing far more alarm within the halls of executive power. During a recent White House summit, ostensibly focused on small business policy, the severity of this issue became impossible to ignore. Instead of discussing the economy with the business owners in attendance, he derailed his own event to deliver a defensive, rambling monologue about his physical and mental strength. He spent a significant portion of this policy summit recounting a cognitive assessment test. He boasted to the room that he had successfully identified a squirrel from a list of animals, a task designed not to measure high-level intellect, but to screen patients for severe dementia or Alzheimer's disease. He then falsely claimed that he is the only president to ever take, let alone aced, such a test. When a sitting president feels compelled to assure the public that he can correctly identify common woodland creatures, it signals a profound erosion of cognitive confidence. This diagram breaks down a highly unusual open letter signed by 36 leading medical professionals. These neurologists and forensic psychiatrists have publicly concluded that the president is mentally unfit to serve and are calling for his removal under the 25th Amendment, the constitutional mechanism for replacing a leader incapacitated by poor health. Looking closely at their assessment, the experts point to a rapid, reality-untethered decline. They cite severe impulse control failures, extreme grandiosity, and manic behavior, highlighting recent incidents where he published over 150 social media posts in a single night. To understand the gravity of this, the medical experts drew a direct comparison to the final erratic days of Richard Nixon's presidency in the summer of 1974. During Nixon's decline, his own chief of staff, Alexander Haig, and the Secretary of Defense became so alarmed by his sleepless, intoxicated wandering that they quietly intervened. They directed the military to clear any nuclear launch orders through them first, effectively bypassing the commander-in-chief. The terrifying difference today is the architecture of the current administration. The cabinet is structured around absolute loyalty, leaving no internal safety net to intercept an erratic military command. This lack of internal guardrails is colliding with a fracturing foreign policy. The president's cognitive decline is not happening in a vacuum. It is actively destabilizing global geopolitics. We can see this unspooling in real time with Project Freedom. The administration's military plan to force ships through the Iranian blockade in the Strait of Hormuz is rapidly disintegrating, triggering direct military pushback from Iran. Domestically, the infrastructure needed to manage crises is also collapsing. The Justice Department is currently hemorrhaging staff, with a mass exodus of lawyers leaving critical national security and legal work completely backlogged. Cornered by these mounting failures, his rhetoric has escalated. Following the recent Iranian strikes, he went on television and explicitly threatened to blow the nation, quote, off the face of the earth. This brings us to the ultimate existential threat. A man exhibiting objectively observable signs of severe cognitive deterioration possesses sole, unchecked authority over a U.S. arsenal of more than 5,000 nuclear warheads. Pairing a failing mind with absolute military power moves the threat beyond the White House and into every theater of global conflict. The camera tracks a staggering walk. 36 experts identify a cognitive breakdown, and the presidential schedule increasingly disappears behind unscheduled medical visits. These public data points outline a commander-in-chief in an accelerating state of decline. The only remaining variable is whether the constitutional safeguards explicitly designed for this exact scenario will actually be utilized by those in his immediate circle. We are watching a commander-in-chief approach complex, high-stakes military conflicts through a distorting lens of paranoia, poor impulse control, and extreme grandiosity. The nation's institutional guardrails have been heavily worn down. The pressing question now is whether they can still hold against a compromised leader who is just one impulsive order away.